off of the banks onto the flat surface. So the drivers really have to discipline themselves, or there can be trouble coming into the pits.
From Bill Elliott all the way back to Dick Skillen, who qualified at 194.8 miles per hour to earn 40th spot. They're formed up in turns 1 and 2 and set to go. The man who'll drop the green flag today is half of the best-selling musical partnership in the history of popular records, John Oates, where he and his musical partner, Darrell Hall, played sold-out concerts the last 3 nights at Nashville, Birmingham, and Chattanooga, and structured the tour so that Oates, who competes occasionally on the Camel GT road racing circuit, could be here to drop the green flag for the fastest field in stock car history. We'll talk to him later on in today's broadcast.
Field is forming up in the middle of the back straightaway. They'll cut him loose next time by. I asked Cale Yarborough here earlier in the week if he felt like he could hang on to the draft and run up front. Cale says he feels like that he can draft. He had the quote of the week, I think, with all the news guys here. And earlier in the week, they asked him about not being able to draft a Ford Thunderbird, and Cale said that's kind of bull. He said that's not really the case. He said you just have trouble catching one to draft it, and that may be the case here this afternoon, but a lot of drivers don't seem to think so. They think they'll be able to run right up there with the Ford Thunderbirds all day, and certainly going to be interesting to find out. The Winston 500 will turn out undoubtedly to be the fastest race in the history of stock car racing, as we've said a couple of times here this afternoon. 18 drivers qualifying at over 200 miles an hour, and right at this particular moment as they work the banking up in the north end of the speedway.
Sutherland is there.
Mike Joy, you know they have to have a kind of a case of nerves, and Dave Sutherland will cover the action in that area. Let's go to him now.
Well, the field's now forming up behind that gleaming white Pontiac Trans Am pace car as they start to tighten up and head into the tri-oval area, just coming down past pit road now. And the next time by, we'll be seeing them drop off the green flag. The pace car heads onto pit road. We're ready to go.
Crowd lets out a mighty cheer as they're ready to turn them loose here for the running of the Winston 500. They're in the dog leg, and that, as many drivers say, is the toughest turn on this particular racetrack, is getting through that dog leg. And indeed, next time they come through here, they'll be whistling it better than 205 miles an hour. They are down to the line. Green flag is displayed to the field, and the Winston 500 is underway. Dropping all the way down to the inside, going 3 wide for a moment was Darrell Walker, trying to move up some spots as they hit turn 1.
But they'll stay basically 2 by 2 as they work their way into turns 1 and 2 for the first time of 188 laps. Still 2 by 2, but now it's 3 wide. Labonte wants the lead. He'll pull to the inside of Bill Elliott and Cale Yarborough. It's still 3 wide, and now Darrell Waltrip has an idea to join that battle. They head down the back stretch to turn 3.
Go, Dave.
They are going at it, hammer and tawing into the banking, and it's Yarborough who'll take the lead into turn 3, turn 4. Yarborough coming down low. He's being trailed by Kyle Petty as the field begins to break off the turn and head down into the tri-oval area. Your leader, Cale Yarborough. Kyle Petty goes second. Then it's the Folgers car for Joe Ruttman.
It is an all-Ford front twosome. It is Cale, Kyle Petty, Joe Ruttman is third, Labonte is fourth, Waltrip is fifth, sixth is Bill Parsons, seventh is Bobby Hillen. All the way back to 8th spot is Bill Elliott, turn 1.
But Elliott is on the move now. He's into 7th spot, and he works to the inside of Bobby Hillen, trying to pick off 6th. That's the only two-way battle among the front cars until Labonte pulls out. The lead car is Yarborough. Kyle Petty is second. Labonte now on the move. He's to the inside in third.
Labonte working to the inside. Yarborough still your leader with Kyle Petty glued to his rear bumper. Coming down low. Who is this? It's Darrell Waltrip moving into the 3rd spot just beyond the Folgers car of Joe Ruttman. Here they come off the turn again, and it's Yarborough, your leader. Kyle Petty trailing.
Okay. Cale Yarborough said he could lead this race, and indeed he has. He's jumped out front as he pulls Kyle Petty down to the line. Back in the field is where the jostling is going on from 3rd on back. 3rd is Walker, 4th is Ruttman. Battle for 5th spot between Terry Labonte and Bill Elliott as they hit turn 1.
Elliott has the inside groove holding down 5th. Labonte staying right with him to the outside. It's 2.
And Kyle Petty try to link up and chase down the leader, and they're beginning to gain on him. They've cut it down now to about 3 or 4 car lengths, and there may be a battle for the lead before they leave turn 2.
At the same time, Jeff Bodine trying to work further back. He looked to the inside of Bobby Hillen in what would have been a battle for 10th, but Jeffrey decides to go single file. It's just 2 car lengths now. Bill Elliott's lead over a hard closing Dale Earnhardt, but Earnhardt has company because Cale Yarborough and Kyle Petty are right there.
The draft beginning to stretch itself out now with 4 cars starting to break away, led by Elliott. 3 car lengths back to Earnhardt, 2 back to Petty, and 2 more back to Yarborough. Then about 5 back to the Darrell Waltrip car as they swing off turn 4.
Elliott's Coors Thunderbird is not running off from anybody right now as Earnhardt and Kyle Petty have erased that deficit. It's now just about 5 car lengths. Cale swings high in the tri-oval. He's 4th, Waltrip 5th, Ruttman is 6th, Bonnet is 7th, Phil Parsons is 8th, Richard Petty is 9th, and Bobby Hillen is 10th.
Back at the Alabama International Motor Speedway, Harry Gant is just turning through the pit wall in the Skull Bandit. A lot of smoke out of that car. Ned Jarrett will have the story on that. Let's check in with Ned right now.
Well, Barney, we were on our way down. Rusty Wallace has also slowed in the Elliott Pontiac. Checking on him, Jerry Punch will get with Harry Gant in a moment.
So 2 cars already. The attrition rate last time we were here was very high at the Alabama International Motor Speedway.
He holds 12th spot. David Pearson 13th. Up to 14th is Buddy Baker with 15th. Ricky Rudd 16th position, still held by Bobby Allison with 17th. Ron Bouchard. Single file 18th is Sterling Marlin. 19th will be Lake Speed with Benny Parsons 20th. They're in turn 3.
In turn 3 again, and Earnhardt has closed in on the bumper of Elliott. Elliott drops down a groove to keep him back there. Earnhardt looks to the inside, breathes the car a little bit, and stays right behind Bill Elliott. Petty about 2 car lengths back. Yarborough another 4 back behind Petty as they come into the short chute.
Things are going to get hot at the Alabama International Motor Speedway as Bill Elliott looks in that rearview mirror. Here comes Dale Earnhardt. He's cut it down to 2 car lengths. Right behind him is Kyle Petty. A couple more back there's Cale Yarborough as the front 4 are locked tied in turn 1.
And Earnhardt is there. He looks to the inside, but Bill Elliott comes down to block that opening in an effective move. So Earnhardt will back still, holding in the 2nd spot. Kyle Petty in 3rd. Cale Yarborough in 4th. Hold single file. There's race traffic now being a factor. Just 3 car lengths ahead of the leaders. Race traffic.
The quartet of lead cars moving up on 4 other lap cars as they come up to the banking in turn 3. Elliott leads the way. Earnhardt won't attempt to pass now as they come by 2 of the...
Back into the tri-oval at 200 miles an hour. Elliott now has a 4-car breakaway at the front of the field. It's Elliott, Earnhardt, Kyle Petty, and Yarborough. Waltrip leads the 2nd draft. Joe Ruttman, Neil Bonnet, Phil Parsons, and the rest of the pack totaling some 20 cars.
Lead cars going past Connie Saylor and J.D. McDuffie, so for the moment nobody makes a passing move. Off turn 2, Earnhardt has consistently come off the corner, looking to make a pass to the inside of Bill Elliott, but once they get to the midpoint of the back straightaway, it's all single file.
Another 5 back to Waltrip.
And Tim Richmond is way back toward the tail end of the field. He and Mike Alexander drafting along together, just trying to catch up to about 27th position. Elliott takes him back to turn 1, and Earnhardt goes to work on him again. Those front 4 still nose to tail, about a half a car length separate them. Here's Earnhardt to the bottom of the racetrack.
And this time he has an opening. Bill Elliott will slip up just a half groove. Earnhardt winds up the Wrangler Monte Carlo. It's a drag race off turn 2. Earnhardt has the inside groove. Elliott, though, with that horsepower, catches him, and now Kyle Petty pulls to the inside. It's 3-way in turn 3.
The Talladega draft does the job as Kyle Petty drafts past Earnhardt, but there in front again is Bill Elliott. Elliott got it back, and Petty moves into 2nd. Earnhardt to 3rd. Yarborough sitting back there in 4th, and then back to the next 5 or 6 cars led by Darrell Waltrip.
It's a 4-car draft leading a 7-car draft and then an 8-car pack as they come to the start-finish line to complete 16 laps. Earnhardt has a look on the low side of Kyle Petty, thinks better of it, tucks back in line. It's Elliott, Petty, and Earnhardt. The draft at Talladega is a big rubber band. You can stretch it out, but they all come back together again. And now there are 16 cars closed up in one long draft up to turn 4. Elliott is still the leader. Kyle Petty hangs on to 2nd, and 3rd is Dale Earnhardt. 4th is Cale Yarborough. 5th is Waltrip. 6th is Ruttman, and 7th, Bodine. From the Alabama International Motor Speedway, this is MRN, the Motor Racing Network.
Back in that 4th spot is still Cale Yarborough as they work in the back chute. Let's go to the garage and Ned Jarrett.
We're standing on pit road with Richard Childers, of course, who owns the car that Dale Earnhardt is driving. They were running laps, Barney, of around 2:06 when they were catching Bill Elliott. Now they've settled to about 2:03. Richard, did you think that you could stay up with Bill this easy, this early in the race?
Well, Dale just said he wanted to get up there close to him. He knew if we get up there close to him, we'd get a shot. But we don't know if he's just holding back now or what.
Well, it'll be interesting to see. Jerry Punch is standing by in the garage area.
Well, Canadian Trevor Boyd is a 3rd car to retire. He's parked the McKeag Racing Chevrolet. Trevor, what's the problem?
Seems like we lost an engine. Seemed we cracked a piston or maybe burned a hole through a piston and started blowing all the oil out through the breather, so we're done for the day.
3 cars out here in the garage.
Harry Gant, one of the top contenders, out of it here early this afternoon also. The other car is Rusty Wallace.
David Pearson's car is still on pit road. Now it begins to move. Let's go to Ned Jarrett in the Pearson pit.
He might just bring it around and park it. Hoss Ellington, who is the owner of it, what is the problem?
Well, Ned, you know, we put that motor in this morning, and I guess we got a valve cover leak. Something's cracked on it. It's just leaking oil and got on the right front tire. They thought it had a tire going down and like to hit the wall, so it's probably just the oil on it. So he gonna Just park it, I guess.
Okay, he's just going to take it around the track and pull her into the garage area, Mike.
Pearson had hoped to have a really good run here, Ned. He came here this week with a brand new car. They didn't get but about less than 10 laps of practice before he went out and qualified and had an outstanding run in the car, putting himself in 8th spot at over 202 miles an hour. We'll take a minute to say hello to Morris Langston, who, of course, is involved with Chattanooga Chew and the Helms Tobacco Company people. He's recuperating up in Presbyterian Hospital up in Charlotte, North Carolina. We hope to see him back around the racetrack very shortly. 30 laps are complete here at the Alabama International Motor Speedway with Dale Earnhardt riding in front, Elliott second. Kyle Petty rides third, Cale Yarborough is fourth, and Phil Parsons is in fifth position.
He joined us late. Our apologies for electrical problems that affected half the county here and the safety equipment at the racetrack. That's why we're late getting started, and we hope that all of our MRN stations are back on the air with us on the Dial 900 service of the satellite feed. Among those 260 radio affiliates are stations carrying their first MRN race today. We want to welcome WBIS in Bristol, Connecticut, WBNF in Roswell, Georgia, WFKB in Florence, Kentucky, WCBQ in Oxford, North Carolina, WYRV in Cedar Bluff, Virginia, and WYNI in Monroeville, Alabama, all carrying their first MRN broadcast today. As Dale Earnhardt leads Bill Elliott, Kyle Petty, and Cale Yarborough down the back straightaway, and Richard Petty's moved up into fifth in front of Neil Bonnet, Jeff Bodine, and Joe Ruttman from Alabama International Motor Speedway. This is MRN, the Motor Racing Network.
In turn 4, no one seems to want to drop off the pace yet. We've got one smoker down low. That looks to be like the Phil Parsons car. Coasting in just ahead of your leaders is Bosco Lowe in the 17. Here comes Earnhardt onto pit road.
Earnhardt is making his stop. Kyle Petty is just pulling back onto the speedway. Let's go to pit road and Ned Jarrett.
Everybody is changing right side tires, Barney Hall, as they come down. Buddy Arrington going back out into the Metro Motors car. Sterling Marlin has been in for the longest. They had a little trouble on the right side. Now they're having to push him down pit road as apparently the engine died. Behind him is the McCord Gaskins car, number 17.
Check out Phil Parsons. He's coming down, and his left front is down. It looks like he's got a tire problem.
He was in just a moment ago, and you are right. As he comes down pit road here, the left front tire is completely flat on that car. They changed the right side tires when he was in. Earnhardt goes back out. And Parsons having to come in very, very slow. The inner liner had gone flat also on that car.
Behind him, Ricky Rudd and Bobby Hillen will continue on. Your leader and your second place car now coming on to pit road for their first stop of the day.
Two near misses on pit road. Don Hume almost pulls in and collects Jeff Bodine. As Joe Bodine moves to the outside, Ron Bouchard had to go to the grass to miss them. Lake Speed was one of the drivers that made two pit stops, taking on tires on both sides of his Nationwide Auto Parts Pontiac before rejoining the competition. 37 laps are complete here at Talladega, and pit stops will shuffle the order. As everyone, it takes about a lap to pit here to get in and out of the pits and back up to speed. You do lose a lap, but when the leaders drop off and make their pit stops, everyone should end up back where they were running once again.
Well, Bill Elliott just got his service bike and is headed back out. He and Cale Yarborough are both in at the same time. They drag race down pit road. Elliott's in front, but Yarborough gaining on him. Here's Neil Bonnet, an awfully good pit stop for Bonnet and the Budweiser team. He picked up several seconds on that, so he's not going to be far behind the leaders.
Neil Bonnet gets back onto the racetrack. Darrell Waltrip had been going backwards just before they started this round of pit stops, and he is not running up to par here at all this afternoon at the Alabama International Motor Speedway. 37 laps are complete. 188 will make up the distance here this afternoon.
Terry Labonte is posted as the race leader. He's about to make his pit stop down by Ned Jarrett.
Well, this would be his scheduled pit stop, of course, and he, too, like all the others, will take on right-side tires. Mike Joy, Dale Inman, and the rest of the Piedmont Airlines crew going to work. They clean the windshield, fill it up with gasoline, give him a cool drink. We don't see them making an adjustment on that car. They made a major chassis adjustment on Jeff Bodine's car, and Labonte gets off the jacks and heads down the pit road. The car number 17, the Bosco Lowe drives, is back in the pits again. They had trouble getting it fired a moment ago. They pushed him all the way down pit road. He went out and came back in, now getting a change of right side tires.
Dale Earnhardt has assumed the lead after this round of pit stops. The latest word we get from NASCAR timing and scoring.
With Earnhardt, Richard Petty, and Bill Elliott, Kyle Petty.
Gets all shuffled up on the 45th lap here as they come to the start-finish stripe. Yarborough, Earnhardt, Richard Petty, Bill Elliott, and Kyle Petty. Bobby Allison is trying to catch that lead draft out in 1.
Bobby Allison with a brand new paint job debut at this race on his Miller American Buick. He right now hasn't got a drafting partner, but Bobby manages to close in within shouting distance of Kyle Petty, and he'll join up in 6th spot.
Earnhardt now dropped to the inside as Cale Yarborough hugs the concrete retaining wall heading into turn 3. Earnhardt tucks in behind him. Here's Richard Petty. He goes up to the outside to make it 3 wide.
Petty tries way high in the turn. Can't do anything there. Here's Bill Elliott down low, closing in on the back bumper of Richard Petty. Earnhardt looks inside Cale Yarborough, but there's no go as they come up on a slower car of Connie Saylor.
That's the kind of racing the fans at Talladega come to expect, and they see it every time we come here. Here's Earnhardt coming around on the outside. Will scoot by Richard Petty to take over the 2nd spot. He's going to try and get Cale Yarborough on the outside down in turn 1.
And again, we've seen passing on the outside today. Will it happen here? Well, Earnhardt draws alongside of Caleb, keeps that Monte Carlo wound up. There are a couple of slower cars ahead of them off turn 2. Richard Petty tucks in behind Earnhardt, gives Dale the push, but now it's a 3-wide battle for 2nd.
Down on the bottom of the racetrack, here's the course forward of Bill Elliott. He's side by side with Cale Yarborough now as Petty has moved by. It's Earnhardt, Petty, and the 3rd place battle with Elliott and Yarborough.
Elliott moving to the front. He'll get past Cale Yarborough and take over 3rd. It's Earnhardt leading, Richard Petty 2nd. Then at Bill Elliott 3rd and 4th to Yarborough, closing in Kyle Petty and Bobby Allison.
Into the tri-oval. Petty has a look on the low side of Earnhardt, but lap traffic is there, and a bit of smoke out of one car. It looks like Bill Elliott's car. Elliott has gone up in smoke. The car goes toward the bottom of the racetrack, still smoking heavily, but he is in the throttle in turn 2.
The whole world has just stood up back here off turn 2, and they're just pointing collectively at the number 9 car. Everybody goes by. Elliott's car still under power, but smoke showing from the rear.
Earnhardt is leading Richard Petty, Cale Yarborough, Kyle Petty, and Bobby Allison. Elliott's car is still up to power. It is smoking quite heavily, but he's dropping back not that much further from the rest of the pack, but he's heading for pit road.
Elliott trails smoke. Meanwhile, Earnhardt leads. Richard Petty is 2nd. Back 3 car lengths to Cale Yarborough. 4 more to Kyle Petty, and then Bobby Allison goes 5th.
And coming down onto pit road, Bill Elliott, and every fan here is on their feet coming down the line. Earnhardt's going after Richard Petty for the lead, and he's going to do it on the outside again. They race door to door back into turn number 1, and the crowd is watching that battle. Ned Jarrett's on pit road as Bill Elliott pulls the Thunderbird in there.
Jerry Punch is in that area.
Bill Elliott pulls the car in. They're working beneath the hood. We'll get a comment from Ernie and find out what the problem is.
If it is indeed engine trouble, it would be the first time since 1982 that the Elliott team has lost an engine in a Grand National stock car race.
Let's go to Jerry Punch for the story.
They're still talking about it, Barney. Ernie Elliott, they were beneath the hood. They went to tie something down. Apparently power steering leak on the car. We're trying to confirm that with Ernie Elliott, who's still on the radio with Bill. The car, meanwhile, is back on the speedway.
Elliott not quite yet up to speed, but he's running pretty good as he passes Eli Gold.
Closing in on Yarborough, trying to go to the high side. Cale rides up the banking to near the wall and closes that doorway. And here comes Bill Elliott at the back of the pack trying to race away from Kyle Petty. Petty, your leader, coming up to pit road.
Barney, we're in Kyle Petty's pits. Smiles on the faces of the Wood brothers here. Leonard, I'm sure it makes you feel good to see that Wood brothers Ford out front once again.
Yeah, we think Kyle's doing a real good job. We're real proud of him. Yeah, we may have to make a weight change a little later on. I don't know yet. It's getting just a little bit loose, but he looks pretty good out there right now.
I'd say so.
Kyle Petty putting on quite a display here this afternoon. He's been happy all week long with his good qualifying effort, being able to run right up front, and his whole attitude in racing has changed. 51 laps into the Winston 500. We've been caution-free, thank goodness, since they put them under green here this afternoon. The race speed has been anywhere from 202 to about 205 miles an hour
Barney
all
Hall,
day long. Go ahead.
We caught up with Ernie Elliott standing on the pit wall with us. Ernie, what was the problem with the car?
It was nothing but the scavenge line on the oil pump. It's not that bad, you know. We just need to get a break and get caught up.
Well, they said it vibrated loose and was blowing a little oil on the engine. That was the smoke we saw. They have tightened it down. He should be okay.
Elliott has lost 1 lap according to NASCAR scoring, but he is now pulling away from Kyle Petty at the rate of 0.7 of a second per lap. So Kyle is the leader. Cale Yarborough runs right on his bumper. Dale Earnhardt is 3rd. Richard Petty is 4th. In the 5th spot is Bobby Allison. Bill Howard stepped into our booth. He's the chief executive of Piedmont Airlines, and if the FAA had anything to do about it, you'd have to give all these guys pilot licenses because they're running out here a lot faster than those 737s of yours take off and land.
Mike, that's so true. And gosh, you look at the 150,000 people or so standing here today, and they're standing. Literally, the entire group has been standing since the start of the race.
I don't know why people buy seats at a stock car race, because they don't spend much time sitting down in them, but it's a good place to watch the race from, and what a race we're seeing. Are you surprised that Bill Elliott did not run away from the field as many people had predicted?
Well, I think Bill Elliott looked awfully strong to me. I think he was just taking his time. He looked awfully strong, and you may see him be a very distinct factor in this race yet, Nate.
Your driver, Terry Labonte, had a strong qualifying run, posted 3rd in the field. He's been running around about the middle of the field, but it's real early yet.
Oh, yeah, we feel good about him. He's doing a good job. The car seems to be handling well. They made no adjustments this last time in the pit, so we're in good shape.
54 laps are complete here at the Alabama International Motor Speedway in the Winston 500. That 5-car draft is now broken away from the rest of the field, and Bill Elliott continues to drive away from the now leader, Cale Yarborough. A moment ago, the interval was about 3 seconds. He was in danger of going 2 laps down, but now he is going to make sure that they do not catch him and put him a couple of laps behind.
Well, Bill Howard, since Piedmont got involved with auto racing and sponsoring a couple of race teams, I think now there's probably not a NASCAR racetrack that you don't fly to.
Mike, I guess that's true. It's been a great thing for us from an advertising standpoint and from the people standpoint. Our people are so enthused about it.
Bobby Allison had the lead for just a moment. Cale Yarborough took it away from him, and Yarborough goes back in front, dropping Allison back to 2nd. Let's go to Ned Jarrett.
Benny Parsons has a problem on the Copenhagen Chevrolet, Barney. He came in, he was one of the last cars to come in for a scheduled pit stop. They changed all 4, but when they let the jack down, apparently he had it revved up and it broke the yoke on the drive shaft. So they're pushing that car behind the wall. We don't know if they're going to be able to try to repair it and get him back in or not.
Well, that's a heartbreaker to have something like that happen, because you lose a lap here at Talladega. It's possible to make it up, but if you have to make it up under green, it is awfully difficult at this racetrack.
We mentioned that Benny Parsons had pulled the Copenhagen Chevrolet behind the wall. Benny, is it the drive shaft with the yoke on it, or what is it?
I don't have, something broke in the drivetrain. I have not been told. I'm assuming it's a drive shaft.
Okay, Benny's still sitting in the car as they scramble around, bring tools over here and try to get some parts here to see if they can find out what it is and get it repaired.
Racing going on back in the pack, just as hot as it is up front, as Cale Yarborough and Dale Earnhardt draft down the back straightaway. Outstanding run for Richard Petty here. It's been a long time since he's been able to get up front, although he has won at Talladega. He's never had that much success here. And Richard told us he felt like coming into here, he was not that worried about the 2 Ford Thunderbirds. He said he's been here enough to know that the fastest car does not always win at Talladega.
Draft is so important here, since, if you're 5 or 6 mile an hour close to a man, then you can run with him, and not that he makes a bobble or anything. You just, when you're running that close, the draft just does so many crazy things that a lot of times you're able to slip by and win a race. So I've seen cars here that with probably 10th or 12th cars running in the race, and it come down to 2 or 3 cars at the end of the race. Maybe the front 2 gets to racing. This cat comes out of the woods and beats everybody, and you don't even really consider them. While you're racing, you're busy racing with what you think's the fastest car, and a slow car goes by both of you. So the wind is so drastic, and it changes so much when cars get together that the fast cars, like you say, they do have the advantage, but that doesn't make it that much more of an advantage here than it does a lot of other tracks.